Marwaan Abdul, Victor Sabbe, Peter Reynolds and Werner Schmidt continue their discussion on the role of the dad in home education. Marwaan lives in Cape Town, and he and his wife home educate their 4 children. They've been doing so for about 4 years. Victor Sabbe lives in Hermanus, and he and his wife have been home educating their 4 children for 9 years. Werner Schmidt is from Chile Bloemfontein, and he and his wife home educate their 2 children aged 9 and 7. They started in the preschool years. And Peter Reynolds from the East Rand has 2 children. He and his wife have been home educating for about 2 years, and the children are aged 8 and 6.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. This is, as I mentioned, this is part 2 of our role of the dad specifically in homeschooling. And we'd like to just have a quick, it's a follow-on from part 1. And the discussion will now be a bit more practical than it was previously. Okay? So I think the first question is, with regards to curriculum, how involved were you in deciding the curriculum for your kids?
Well, when my wife and I started homeschooling, we were in this together. So, we would generally look at our children and we'd have a discussion about what would be the best curriculum. And the curriculum, funny enough, is like buying a car. You look at what car your family needs. Do you need a big car? Do you need a small car? You look at how the car fits into your budget. You look at the color you want in the vehicle. You look at the make. So when you buy a car, we try and tailor make the car to the family's needs. So that was a similar approach that my wife and I took when it came to choosing our curriculum. But it was generally always together, and a lot more input from my wife because she would have to homeschool the kids. And then we'd throw ideas around, and she would say that she thinks this is going to work, and I'd say maybe not that. And then at the end of the day, we'd get to the curriculum that worked for us as a family.
Okay, Werner?
Marwan, from our side, initially we both rummaged through a number of curricula and approaches, etc. We've grown to settle on a very eclectic approach, and I think it's a very evolving and sort of it's a continuous process as we try to focus on every child's emergence as a human being. At the moment, practically speaking, my wife is linked more into the day-to-day homeschool networking activities, the extracurricular stuff, the academic enrichment stuff, the cultural and sports enrichment stuff and activities. So I personally believe that is on an ongoing basis, that is actually a wonderful place where cross-pollination and, alignment with trends and sort of what's available and what's on offer still happens to this day. So, but I mean, that's part and parcel of our very eclectic and, laid back approach, which we feel appropriate for our 9-year-old and 7-year-old at the moment.
Okay, thank you, man. And Peter?
Yeah, my wife is very resourceful. She's very good at doing detailed research and building those networks. My role's been a little bit more directional, but together we've agreed on an approach that blends Charlotte Mason and classical, and she's basically taken the lead in designing the curriculum with some input from me, and we regularly talk about it and we review the children's progress and take decisions together. So I think the key to it is that although she does most of the legwork, we talk about it regularly and in regular daily communication about where the direction it's taking. Yeah.
I think this group is very much sort of both parents are very hands-on in educating their children. But do you think that some husbands or dads, would it be appropriate for them to hand over the teaching or the ownership of the curriculum to the mother?
No. Although one parent can take on that home education full time and run the day-to-day operations. Both parents are jointly responsible, and whatever my wife does, she does that with my full authority behind her.
I think it's important that the husband and wife need to be in agreement, specifically when it comes to homeschooling. Because you'll face a lot of challenges, and and sometimes it's not always going to be easy. So it's important that you're in agreement, and that you're in it together. And generally, my wife does most of the homeschooling, but I'm there to support her. And if the kids are getting a bit difficult, Dad climbs in and he asserts himself, and he puts the children back in their place and explains to them, how the pecking order works and where they fit in life.
Okay, so he's the authority then.
Yeah, from my side, it's sort of as adults, as the two adults in the room for the moment, with the kids emerging to their fullness or ripeness or readiness for to take on adult life in time. I think it's also just paying attention moment by moment, because nobody's going to be the leader all the time. Nobody's going to be the champion operationalization officer, all the time. So it's sort of also being, it creates more sensitivity at the spousal level as well, to sort of who can be strong in this moment, for the greater good of the family. And but what a wonderful challenge.
Yeah.
Victor, I just wanted to thank you for the comment you made earlier, because a lot of people think that when you have days when the children are not so cooperative, people often feel alone and they think they're failing at it. But it happens to everybody. You have good days where it just runs smoothly, and you get days when the children just don't really, they're just not really in the rhythm of it, and it's difficult for the mother, and sometimes she gets exasperated.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you guys a funny story. I got home from work the one day with the older two, and my wife just said, "No, finished with homeschooling. I'm sending them back to school." And and the kids were in tears, because they obviously enjoyed the relaxed lifestyle, and and sleeping a bit late, starting their schoolwork in their pajamas and things like that. And then I called the oldest two in, and I said, "Guys, you've really shot yourself in the foot here. You've actually shot your foot off." And I said, "Well, I'm going to have to show you what school's like." So the next morning, I woke them up at 6, and the school bus drives past our house every morning. And at about 6:45, the school bus came past, and I opened the window and I said, "Guys, that's your future. There it is. So I suggest you comply. You comply with your mom's wishes, and very quickly." And that brought quite a nice attitude adjustment for a while.
But I think that raises a very interesting question. How do we support our wives when everything doesn't go well? Or when they start questioning whether or not what they're doing is correct?
Well, we've been married for 22 years, and in that time, I've learned not to offer up any patronizing advice from the sidelines, but rather listen, let the other person define the problem, sound out some remedies, and then together you find the solution.
Yeah, I think it's important, if your wife's having a bad day, just to listen, like Peter said, and just to support. I think men and women are wired a bit differently, and I think men look for solutions, and women look for many times more for emotional support. So as a husband, you give her that emotional support, and you charge her battery, and then she's ready for the next round.
Yeah.
Yeah, from my side as well, like I said earlier, both myself and my wife are very clear individuals, and both very strong in our convictions. So I would venture to say that it doesn't. This is going to be very unique to every family, I suppose, as well. It doesn't often happen. I think more when it's more at sort of clash of personality level, that it might happen. And then sometimes I would just try to just take the kids off the premises, go to the tennis courts, or just get away, just give a breather. That's sometimes all that's needed for all of us to reset our buttons.
Okay, it's interesting, you guys. We all have very similar challenges, and sometimes I think my wife's expectations of our kids are actually way too high sometimes. In that, when she's busy or trying to explain a new concept, and the expectation is that the child must get it immediately.
Yeah.
Sometimes we look at something, we forget that we understand a concept because of how it's been built over time, and we understand it. But sometimes the kids won't actually get it so quickly, and then it leads to a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
And as you say, maybe sometimes, as the father or the dad in this case, you just got to sort of diffuse the situation, and allow the process to flow.
Marwaan, I think that's very often the weakness or the flaw in conscientious people, is that you always feel you're not doing enough. You would always be doing more, and sometimes wives just need to be told, you're doing enough. It's you're doing fine. Don't worry about things like that.
Yeah. As a husband, we just got to make sure that we're there to support them when they're at that point.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And many of us come from a school background, as we discussed earlier with regards to de-schooling, okay? And our understanding, of course, is that when somebody goes to school, there's a test, there's a progress report, and there's a level of evaluation. And how do you guys feel, or how do you evaluate, first of all, evaluate your kids, and you evaluate, and I know it's a very terrible thing to say, but how do you evaluate how well your wife is actually doing?
Yeah.
I think I'll start there. When we started our homeschool journey, I pretty much still had the school in me.
Yeah.
So my wife homeschooled my daughter in grade 1, and obviously I thought, well, the next step is to have her assessed and to see how she's doing, and I put that tremendous pressure on my wife and my daughter, and the assessor wasn't pro homeschooling at all. So that whole thing just unwound. That was a very bad experience. After that, I had to apologize to my wife and my daughter and say to them, look, Dad made a big mistake. I shouldn't have done that. But I mean, that was my journey. That was trying to get, that was still me stuck in the school. And, so, for us, the primary school years, we didn't feel that we needed to assess the children academically in any way. We try to develop in them the love to learn, the love to read, to be inquisitive and that type of thing. And then my oldest two are in high school now. So then we've sort of moved over to more of a formalized curriculum, where we, my oldest son is in Cambridge. So, so there he's got to write exams and he has to do certain assessments, but that comes with a package, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But fortunately, as a homeschooling child, he's developed the ability to, to be a self-learner. You know what I mean? So he doesn't need his mom peeping over his shoulder anymore. He basically learns by himself, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Victor. And
we don't have a formal internal assessment system as yet. We'll see how that develops. My perspective is, I'm interested to see all human beings who cross my path professionally and personally. I love to see people flourish and be the most that they can be. So it's, how I observe my children is to basically look at their repertoire of human activity. Is it becoming richer? Is it becoming more diverse? Are they questioning enough, etc. So, it's not always easy to get this. Is my kid where he's supposed to be compared to some external standard bug out of me? But in the moment that I do succeed in getting that right, it's just marvelous to see how the kids keep bringing new gifts and new questions and new avenues of new surprises of what they're interested in, and how they sort of drive their own yearning towards fields of mastery, and we can support them in that. So just back to your question, we have absolutely none of that house parent A or B doing in his role. We just try to take it day by day and make every interaction a moment for growth and love and the fullness of being human.
Thank you. I guess it's very important that we understand that home educators are more about developing holistic kids. Or let's put it this way, we are not rearing kids, we're rearing future adults.
Yeah.
And that's very important.
Those standardized normative assessments that you see in formal schooling are really there to satisfy politicians, but they don't really benefit the child. It's the fallacy of performance management, that you can performance manage something. Nevertheless, assessing proficiency and tracking the learning progress is effectively done one-on-one with the child. And for parents, there's a multitude of tools and resources, many of them free, available in the home education community. The freedom to choose the most suitable is key to customizing your child's education.
Thank you, Peter. Really appreciate it. And just one more question. And on a day-to-day basis, your wife is sort of the primary, let's call it, educator. What happens when she falls ill?
Dad, you've got to jump in, eh? You've got to get your hands dirty and and cook if you need to cook, and help with the chores if you need help with the chores. At the end of the day, if you're a family, you work together. And when one person in the family is suffering or they're going through a hard time, the rest of the family have to carry them. So, which was quite nice for us as a family. My oldest daughter, she was in a social group with friends that were quite difficult, and as sometimes as girls go, they would fight all the time. And she struggled with that. And then, the evening she came home and she just said, "It's so great to be a part of this family because I feel secure and I feel safe and I can trust everyone here, and this is my safe place." And that's what you want your children to feel. You want them to feel the family is the safe place for them to be. So we, so that answers your question.
I mean, Werner, you want to add in?
In our reality, as I've said before, both of our professional dispensations lend themselves to a lot of flexibility in terms of, we can shift around appointments with clients, etc., and work from home if needs be. So that flexibility is available to both of us. And then also up to this point, we've been as the parents in the house, we've been blessed with wonderful health that we've neither one of us have had to stay in bed for prolonged periods of time. But should that happen, that's a very bad flu or some kind of affliction, we'll just employ our flexibility that we're very grateful for, to deal with the situation. But as Victor said, there's no stopping life in the heart of the house. Nobody's going to be dropped off at some other building. So operations will have to keep on operating.
Yeah. I think if the wife is sick for just a few days, the impact is minimal. If you compare that to the rigid schedules of formal schooling, where there's definitely something that's going to be lost, you can easily catch up. But if the crisis is a bit more prolonged, if it's more long term, then we rely on our home education community, our cooperatives for help. And that's why, very important, you cannot homeschool in isolation. You need to connect to other homeschooling families in your local area. And it's a voluntary association of parents and families who can support you in our common objective to educate our children.
Okay.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you. I really appreciate your time. I think our time is up. But I mean, just in summary, if somebody's wife came to him tomorrow and said, you know what, I'm really interested in homeschooling, okay, what do you think we should do? I mean, what is your advice to that person?
Yeah, I would tell them, take your kids out of school and don't do anything for a few months, so you can get the school out of you. And then you have to give yourself time to investigate homeschooling, to speak to veteran homeschoolers, to go on the internet and do research, and and then also, if you can, try and assess your child's learning style, and then you can adapt a curriculum towards your child's learning style. And for the first couple of months, relax and don't panic.
Victor, thank you. I really appreciate it. Werner, Peter, anything you guys want to add before we close?
Just in closing, yeah, from my side, it's really I think dovetailing with what Victor has said. I think, spend some time in the very networks that have been established within the homeschooling arena in your area. Just get involved, even if it's after school for your wife. Just get into the vibe, and just what I call the homeschool teachers association. Just get into those groupings of moms and dads, just chatting around activities and see where that leads you, in combination with what Victor has said. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Victor and Werner have said it all. Meet with parents who are doing it. There's often lots of gatherings that happen, regular ones. I know in our area, my wife does a nature study gathering every 2 weeks, and there's a sort of another group that does a country study every month. And see what those parents are doing, talk to them, spend time with them, and just hook into the community.
And of course, support your wife.
Yeah.
Okay, great, gentlemen. Thank you.